Hello, YouTube. Hello, McTow. It's me, McTow to win. And we're just waiting for Tico Trent to come in there. Tico Trent Red Pill. And whoever wants to join in, who I sent the invite to. Or whoever it all affects. Now, as you see, I have the subdued. I have my logo in a subdued fashion. But while we're waiting, we're going to give a little bit of explanation of the subdued. Now, in the military, you have there are two types of flags. There's the in-country flag and the subdued flag. The subdued flag is for when you're deployed to help you blend. It's also to help you blend in, and it's a reminder of you're not home. You're not in country. You're out of country. You're not at home. Same flag, but they're different colors, but more of a subdued color. Now, to me, when it's subdued, it's more chances where you're more vulnerable. Hey, meat bags, what's up? You're more vulnerable to emotions, you know. It's where you're more vulnerable. Like people overseas when they deploy, they're vulnerable. Anything that happens at home that they can't deal with, it's going to affect them. And that's the reason why I made my subdued banner. Because it's for people within a man. I reserve this flag for really heated. I reserve this banner for really heated topics, for manosphere funerals, and for tragedies within the manosphere. Because there's always going to be tragedy. That's the way of life. That's why I have my subdued banner. Because I realize that the colorful banner is not always right for a lot of circumstances. Now, while we're waiting for Tico Trent, I'm gonna get into the little bit of the meat and potatoes of this here live stream. Psychology of the rioters. Text the link. I already did. Just checking the group text with the other two. You know, it should have been there, sent there. I mean, I'll send it again. Give me 1 second. But for the most part, the subdued banner you should have the link. If not, I'll just send it straight to your phone. But this is the first disclaimer. This live stream is not going to be for kids. Second disclaimer is I am not a licensed psychologist. I am not a licensed psychiatrist. I am not a medical doctor in any way, shape, or form. I don't study medicine. I have not taken a Hippocratic oath in any way, shape, or form. If you want to come after me, you're wasting your breath. I'm also not a medical profession. Medical training that I have is basically to save my life or the person to my left and my right via tourniquet, occlusive bandage, trauma bandage, and a bandage with a check valve in it, or basically freaking thing that basically a freaking thing that basically goes into your chest, that punches in your chest to correct your breathing for if you have air within your chest cavity to take the air out. It's basically all the medical training that I have is for combat. So basically, that takes both avenues. I don't have trauma. I don't have any type of medical knowledge or surgical. Everything that I have trained is through combat. Let's begin. What the hell? It's coming in. What the hell's going on? Oh, there it is. Now, the one person who has psychological training, in more ways than one, is basically going to be here to correct me and my fuck ups that I'm going to make. All of my psychological knowledge is either self-taught or learned. Now, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. The psychology of the left and the rioters. Well, from my understanding, from the black standpoint, welcome. From the black standpoint, it's along the lines of when they removed it stems from when they removed the fathers from the home a long time ago. Basically, AKA, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man, yada, yada, yada. When you put that into play many years later, now we have overly emotional black men and women. Which one is worse? I'm not quite sure. They're getting pretty bad. Now, on that note, the problem we're having is now the media has caught up. Well, has been caught up and is now way the hell ahead. So now we have people that are emotional and then compile that up to the fact that the media is ahead of us and is basically dehumanizing black people left, right, and center. Because why? We've allowed it to. We've allowed ourselves to be emotionally triggered. We've allowed ourselves to be emotionally manipulated by anything in the media, which basically allows them to show all the crap. They basically tell one story in one country and tell another story in the next. Which I can almost guarantee you that's happening. I can almost guarantee you that in any country in the world, we are being dehumanized by the media. Why? Because it suits their narrative and it benefits them. They get paid for it. Now, around the world, I mean, they would look at me if my content reaches around the world, they would look at me and they say, "There's no possible way he could be black." Newsflash, international, I'm black. I'm a black American. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Now I'm gonna need you to take your nitro quick pills and your fucking fentanyl patches and for your pain and or your nitro quick patches so that you can hopefully prevent yourself from having a complete hard cardiac arrest. Now, to the next one, the psychology. Let's get in the crucifixes. We are black Americans are emotional because we are not taught to control our emotions because it does not benefit them. It does not pay for us to control our emotions. It does not. It's not benefit. The psychological community can benefit from us not having any understanding of emotional control, and they do. They do in many cases. Oh boy, do they do! Like they all they have to do is give you 30 minutes and pay a crap ton of money for you to talk about your problems. Like I said, hey, if there's anything that is wrong, just don't hesitate to stop me and correct me. You know, one of the reasons why I don't one of the reasons why I don't trust psychological doctors is because the fact that, yes, I need help. Yeah, I need help. I need psychological fucking help. I need a lot of help. But do I trust them? Shit. It's over there. Do I trust them to help? To be worth a damn? Sit. No, I don't trust them to help worth a damn. Sit your ass down. Sit up. Okay. Do I trust them to be worth a damn? No, I don't trust them to be worth a damn. Because what I've experienced when I was younger, I've experienced a lot of psychological BS. And one of the things that I've suffered through is basically them just basically dragging their feet and cherry picking their way. That's pretty much all they've done. They've done nothing to help the situation, nothing to help the problems, and all they've gathered money. They've gathered a lot of money. It took them.
Medical training that I have is basically to save my life or the person to my left, my right.
Like I said, it took them a whole fucking month. When I was younger, it took them a whole fucking month to find out that I had this new condition called autism. You know, it took them a whole fucking month. How does it take you a whole month to find a new condition, a new freaking situation of autism?
Well, no, it doesn't take. It's not the fact that it took them a whole month. It's just the fact that because the spectrum is so big that it could be almost anything. On your end, it can actually not be autism. It can actually be something else. Whereas,
Right.
like, you can run into many other problems. So therefore, they got to weed out all the things that it could possibly be before they can actually get to an actual diagnosis on what it is for you, for all intents and purposes. So basically,
right.
what you ran into was basically nothing more than them trying to weed out what it's not, what it is, what it's not, what it is, what it's not, what it is. And then you have to go look at the side effects that go with it too. So you got to look at all the side effects and all the stuff and your behavior, and you got to match it up with different things. So literally they're going through books and books of things. Then on top of that, they're going from previous experiences or knowledge, for all intents and purposes, to determine that it is autism, for all intents and purposes. Because that's not something that you just place on anybody and everybody. You literally got to actually figure out what it is, because that spectrum is so big and broad, it's ridiculous.
And which brings me to the next thing. It took an intern, fresh out of college, to say, it's none of these things. This person has autism. This person's on the spectrum.
Yeah, but you also got to take consideration too. It probably took an intern because he probably dealt with somebody in his clinicals that actually had this. Because the sad part about that, a good example of illnesses that people get diagnosed with too late or after the fact is good example of that is high blood pressure. We'll use that as an example. I know it's different. It's nothing more. It's pretty much another thing, but it's the same concept. Basically, what happens with high blood pressure is, back in the day, only people over 40 or 50 could be diagnosed with high blood pressure. Okay, cool. So, now you start getting new cases with 36-year-olds with high blood pressure, and they don't want to diagnose them with high blood pressure because normally people only over 40 get high blood pressure according to their findings. So therefore, you gotta basically figure out what it is, despite the fact that it might be high blood pressure, but because of the age range, you can't call it high blood pressure. Okay, cool. So many years go on, and you get more cases of people in their 30s with high blood pressure. Now they diagnose you with high blood pressure. Okay, cool. So now the medical journal comes out, 30 odd people over like 35 or 34 years old basically need to be checked out for high blood pressure. Cool. However, what that actually leaves out is now that there's a new group of people coming up because the stuff is hereditary, that now there's 17-year-old and 20-year-olds now that have high blood pressure. Sadly thing about that is they don't want to diagnose these kids because they're kids and are still active, so they don't know quite how to diagnose these people. However, there are people who are anywhere between 20 and 1 who actually have high blood pressure problems. However, when it comes down to doctors and lawyers, I mean doctors basically, there's this thing in America where they there's this thing called malpractice. So if you actually diagnose somebody with something, they had the opportunity to sue you if you didn't run through all the things that couldn't have been first. Good example of that is recently, not too long ago, a lady who was diagnosed with cancer. Right off the bat, her doctor seen it before. He realized it. He said it was cancer. She was upset, so she sued him. For malpractice, his malpractice insurance. He had to pay her out, this, that, and the other. She literally devastated his practice. So by the time the litigation was over, she had stage 4 cancer because it progressed so fucking fast. There was nothing she could do about it. Now that lady's dead. All because she didn't want to believe that she had cancer in the first place. So typically, this is why doctors got to weed out stuff so they won't be sued in America, because we turn hospitals into, like, unfortunately, corporations now, and the corporations don't want to be sued, so therefore they got to weed out things and weigh out things and make sure it's not something that it needs to be for all intents and purposes. It's typically how that works.
Hold on.
So what happened to you is basically doctors making sure they don't get sued while trying to figure out what it is and what it's not. Plus, back in those days, certain groups of people weren't known to have autism, so therefore they got put out of the spectrum despite the fact that they may have had it. It's typically how it works. So you got looked over based on the group you probably fell in.
Right. And it's the sad thing about it is, like, I get looked over. Yeah, so basically it took them a whole month to figure out what I had. Now, the problem is like, what people don't realize is, like, when you sue them, then we're getting off topic, but we're gonna get off topic for a little bit. But people don't realize when you sue people, it fucks everybody else.
Yeah, it does. Well, the sad part about that, if you're in America, it doesn't matter about everybody else. All that matters is yourself. So everybody else can go to hell. You just want yours. And typically how that works is this lady, unfortunately, karma caught up to her. She won her money in her lawsuit. However, she died shortly thereafter because she had stage 4 cancer. All because she didn't want to hear the fact that she had cancer. Now, the sad part about that, the doctor was on point. He could have treated it very quickly and got her out and probably helped her. However, because she took it to court, took it to litigation, it was too late by the time it was all over and said and done. Because she basically, this is typically the reason why you go to hospitals and they basically test you for a lot of shit so they can make sure it's not that, so they can actually give you a proper diagnosis. Sad part about that, there are doctors that can actually diagnose you off the bat like that. However, because of malpractice insurance and all this other stuff, they're not allowed to do that no more. So therefore, they got to pretty much rule everything out in the process of doing so.
Right.
Because they'll be sued. And the sad part about that is when your doctor's afraid of being sued, he can't do his job effectively. This is why health insurance costs so much money. This is why the healthcare business costs so much fucking money. All because of malpractice insurance and doctors not wanting to be sued.
Right.
And hospitals as well.
Now, question, how many of them people do you think are on the spectrum?
What do you mean?
Like the rioters, the left?
My personal opinion?
Yeah.
I'm willing to go as far as to say probably 40% of feminists have autism. I'm willing to go as far as to say that about at least 20% of the rioters have autism, and I'm willing to go as far as to say at least about 35% of Black Lives Matter people actually have autism.
And I'd say about 30% of them, Black Lives Matter, are undiagnosed. Out of
Probably.
That whole,
well, the sad part about that, a lot of them might actually be diagnosed, and they might just be, acting on impulse due to autism. So it's one of those things where my friends are out there, now I'm out there. And the sad part about that, it might not even be autism. It might be Asperger's that they might not be diagnosed with, and now they're out there acting a fool. Or it might be, anything else under the sun, any other psychological thing that they got going on with them. Now they're out there for all intents and purposes.
Right. and it's like the. I mean, I looked at how my. Look, I'm looking at myself from the past, and I'm looking at a lot of these traits
Mm-hmm.
that some of these people have, and it's like, and
Because
I'm
before,
thinking,
matter of fact, a long time ago, when you were actually being diagnosed, the spectrum wasn't even that broad. It was actually very narrow.
very
When you were
narrow.
actually it was a very narrow spectrum when you were actually being diagnosed. So the fact that you were missed is not shocking to me. For the fact that it's basically like the way I described basically high blood pressure.
Yep.
Only this group of people get high blood pressure if they're over this age. Then it started
Right.
going down. Then it started going down. Then it started going down. Unfortunately for you, when you were actually diagnosed, it was one of those things where it's like this is what it is. You don't really fit it because they're used to the severe cases. They're not used to the mild cases or the damn they're non-existing cases. They're used to the severe cases. So therefore, your case didn't fit in there whatsoever. Which is sad, but it's so true. That's typically how it works. Then it took more studying and more learning and more studying and more learning to actually determine that okay, this is probably what it is, and the spectrum is now big as hell now. Now the spectrum is like probably one of the biggest spectrums in psychology for all intents and purposes.
Let me break this to you. When I look at them and I look at myself, and I think that could have been me.
Yeah, true.
That could have been me. Now I look at them, and it could have been me because these people. The only
Believe it
difference
or
between
believe it or not, not believe it or not, men are more likely to be diagnosed with autism than women. Women are more
right,
likely to go under the radar without being diagnosed with autism. Girls or women, basically, but because everybody focuses so harshly on boys in school, especially the teachers, they're more likely to be diagnosed than they have a higher chance of being diagnosed than a girl is
and
because
I had
typically female teachers treat boys like they have something psychologically wrong with them or they're bad or something like that. So typically they get put on medication in school for this reason. Whereas girls, no matter what they do, they're girls. That's all that matters is a girl. So therefore they go untreated or go undiagnosed for these reasons.
right, and it's like that shit could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to bust my ass to get to where I am right now,
I believe it.
and it fucking and it was a long road, and it's like I live a solitary lifestyle, pretty much, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, there are some things that I don't like that that set me off, but I have the ability to control my impulses.
Yeah.
You know, it sucks. Now, another thing is like if I just think that if I was raised by a single mother, where the hell would I be?
Um, you'd probably be you'd probably either be worse off or you probably wouldn't even be diagnosed. You'd probably be in the system right now.
Right,
Statistically. Um,
statistically.
statistically, you'd probably be in a system right now, and you'd probably be serving time, and you wouldn't be McTown to win. To be honest, you would just be some guy that we never got to meet in jail.
Right. Now, there are benefits to having autism. Just we all know the 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 negatives, right? We all know the negatives,
Mm-hmm.
but do you know the benefits?
Well, I wouldn't really call them benefits. It's more or less like things that happen with it, but I wouldn't really call
Well,
them benefits per se. I mean,
you
don't
have
get
to
me
be able
wrong,
to
it
take.
happens.
You
It
have to be able to
happens.
take. Yeah, I take the negative. I take the negative. I take the things that happen, and I see them as a positive.
Yeah.
That you can that for the most part, for me, I like to try to separate emotion from from my reasoning. No matter how angry I get, I'm still able to think rationally. You know, I'm able to separate my anger from the situation. Now it took me years to get to that point, but I'm able to do it. I call that. I mean, I call it as a benefit. I'm able to critically think and put myself in multiple in situations on two sides. Like when, like, when I argue with myself, it's basically keeping that part of my brain, that part sharp. You know, it's like it's keeping that part of my brain sharp. You know, it's like when I played Dungeons and Dragons. Believe it or not, Dungeons and Dragons does have a therapeutic value to it. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised nobody caught on to it. But but and on that note, there are still characters that I'm banned from because I do them so well, and it's creepy. But for the most part, the psychology is most of them have autism. Most of them were raised with single parent households, probably single mothers, because we all know that because we understand that women are more emotional than men. They are more emotionally charged than men. They're like a powder keg. Compound that up with at least a half a century to a century of basically single mothers raising their children because of divorce, and basically the magical single bullet. Oh, he's abusive. This is what you get. What you get is what you see is what you get. And all the married couples, the married men that are castrated, that will not step up and speak up for their children. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, suburbia. Good job, suburbia. Yeah, once you didn't speak up for your son. You didn't speak up for your daughter for when they're having a problem. You knew, and for most part, the worst part about it is most of them knew. Most of them knew Ed wouldn't speak up because they were too castrated because the almighty peace leave. It's what it is. And I think that's Baron Yam. Nope, that's Tico Trent. Oh, there's nobody else. Okay. Um, I mean, I don't know if Baron Yam was trying to get in, but I know one damn thing. Baron Yam, you better not be at work.
He probably is.
Hey, okay, if I can't live stream, and when I'm driving down the road, you can't fucking work in live stream. But for the most
Them's the
part,
rules.
them's the
Them's the
rules.
rules.
Them's the rules. Look here, I'm not gonna do anything because I started that shit. You know, I started it. This basically is derived from me. But if I can't
I
live
want, I
stream
want,
when I'm
I want
driving,
to, I want to say one of the kind of sort of one of the benefits to playing instruments. One of the benefits to autism, depending on the spectrum or where they lie at in the spectrum, is a lot of this. A lot of the kids have a natural affinity for playing certain instruments or playing music for all intents and
right?
purposes is a gift that they have. Um, so that is a gift, but like it's one of those things where it's like, well, what's the trade off? So
Now,
it's one of those things. Yeah.
what do you have to trade to get that gift? Like,
Well, no,
there's
it's
a
not the
reason,
fact. It's not that. It's more or less the fact that it's basically how your mind works. That basically makes you a natural for. Like I know kids literally who literally pick up any instrument and play it like they've been doing it for years, decades, many
my
months,
sister.
many years. So it's
There's a
one of those things.
reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason my sister banned me from playing the saxophone.
Mm.
You know, my sister banned me from playing the saxophone. I've heard when I picked the piano,
Why?
when I decided to piddle around with the piano,
Hmm.
it took her years to be able to read music. Well, I still can't read music. I had to trade off being able to read music in order to
That's
get
because
the
nine times out of ten you probably feel the music, or you probably interpret it differently. Typically, a lot of people with autism don't really read it. They typically it's one of those things that they go off of feeling and
right.
sound for all intents and purposes. So that's typically how that works for people with autism.
Yeah, my sister banned me from playing the saxophone. And she told me if I ever pick up a saxophone, she's gonna break my fucking hands.
Oh, damn, nice.
Yeah,
What a nice sister. She's a lovely sister.
this is the reason why I'm the second meanest person in the family. But
I say so.
I picked up my little sister's violin. It sounded like a cat dying at first for the first 5 minutes, but after that, it started to sound. It started to be. There started to be improvements. But to this day, I still can't read can't read a note. You know, I still
Hmm.
can't. I still can't read a note of music. I can't do math worth a damn either. You know, I cannot do. I cannot. I cannot live. I literally, no matter how hard I try, I cannot get math. You know, that's another problem I have. But how many of them are undiagnosed? How many of them are going to get placed in a jail, placed in a federal prison, and never be diagnosed? How many of them are going to die in there and not and not? How many of them? Like first off, you've got abuse patients, you've got abuse victims within the mix, childhood abuse, childhood trauma victims. You know,
Hmm.
so basically, you get childhood trauma victims, autistic or on people on the autistic spectrum, and many other various of mental illness like depression, uh, freaking substance abuse, and all these other things mixed in together. In reality, somebody's taking advantage of them. Somebody's taking advantage of their condition
Hmm.
and not helping them get better. Because I guarantee you, if you were to help them get better, you would have a person who's not afraid to stand up for what's right. Because who literally like the person that even though they have their it be a quirk or a difference or a type of situation, you put them like say for me in my instance, I wasn't afraid of the consequences. When I was in Jordan, the base commander, the incoming base commander was not on the list. Thought that because of his rank, he could go anywhere he wanted until he came across me. Now, I stopped him at the door because I didn't know who he was. I told him to present his identification. He didn't present his identification. I told him, you're not going through that door unless you present your identification. I don't care if you're the president of the United States. You're going to present your ID. You're going to present your identification. Or I don't care if you're the king of Jordan. You're going to present your identification.
So I don't care if you're the king of Jordan.
Right. And like, he says, I don't have to, I'm the base commander. Well, are you on the list? I mean, you're not, I mean, I don't know if you're on the list. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're the base commander. He thought he was going to go in it. I pulled out the 240. I pulled out a 249 and loaded up and racked the charging handle back. So to say, he pulled out his identification real quick.
Hmm.
And with the 240, with the 249 on my, like I said, rested on my shoulder in the administration carry, I'm searching through the list. His name's not on the list. I tell him, please exit and come back with an escort. so to say, they adjusted the list to where I'm never on that. I was never on that access point. Because he came back with an escort. They adjusted it so that I'm never on that access point. I didn't know the new incoming base commander was coming. Nobody told me that. But for one thing for sure, that got a lot of. I mean, I think I was the first one there, where they decided to update the list. I was the first one. I'm probably one of the first people. Luckily, I was one of the first people there, first people to meet the base commander and provide a good rapport. You know, and provide a good rapport with the base commander. But they were still scared that I had no problem shooting the base commander because he didn't present his ID.
Hey, sometimes it is what it is.
Right. Like, it doesn't matter if the president of the United States would have visited. I don't care. I mean, have I seen him on TV? Yes, I have.
Does that mean he's allowed to have access? No.
No. It doesn't mean that he's allowed to have access if he's not on the list. I mean, yes, you got Secret Service, but to me, they're just gang members. They're just gangsters. Once you
badges.
Right, I mean, I don't even see the badges. I don't care. Like, you're not on the list. Your Secret Service isn't on the list. Get fucked. It's what it is. Like, I want to know. I mean, I got that. That's one of the reasons why I got such a high security clearance. Because I don't give a fuck who's not on the list. You're not getting through me. I want to make sure everybody's on the list. Would I make a good bouncer if I was 100 pounds heavier and with more muscle and a little bit younger? Yes. And a little bit more martial arts training? Yes. I'd probably make a perfect bouncer. Because I don't give a fuck whose feelings are being hurt.
Say on Channel 11 News, man was shot at the base. Tried to enter. We'll have more at 11.
Today at Channel 11 News, the president's being treated for wounds. Well, we'll have more at 11. Like, he didn't show his ID.
He didn't show his ID.
He wasn't on the list, and he was going to bogart his way in there. And that's like I said, that's why I said it's like when I go to Bed Bath and Beyond, I'm looking for satin sheets. Satin sheets and a nice cashmere blanket.
Oh, good Lord. Random much?
I mean, you sleep well. Shit, satin sheets, you sleep well.
True story. I will let you attest to that. I will attest to that.
Especially with silk sheets are like luxury. You know?
They definitely are. You ain't never lie on that one.
You sleep damn good. Only problem is you got to dry clean the motherfuckers.
True. That's always a problem.
Yeah. But for the most part, you sleep well. You sleep damn good. And shoot, if it wasn't for the fact that if it wasn't for the fact that they're expensive as fuck, I'd bring them on the road with me. But they're meant for deployments. I probably bring about 10, 12 pairs of them, sets of them. Every Friday, we're gonna be sleeping on satin sheets, you know. Like
we're gonna be sleeping on satin sheets.
I'm gonna.
That's right.
Like, how do you sleep? Well, it's a mixture of cotton sheets and satin sheets. Satin sheets are for Friday. It spoiled me. And I mean, they're gonna look at me for like I'm crazy, but when they inspect the room, they're gonna say, "Yo, this motherfucker's serious." Would I be able to sleep well if I had to plug somebody? Yes. What the hell? Where'd Tico go? But for the most part, oh, that's where it went.
To me?
But for the most part, it's like the psychology. We're gonna try to get back on topic, but the psychology of the left between BLM and Antifa, we've got abuse victims and we have autism.
Got a chance, yeah.
I mean, especially with the feminists. I'm not afraid to say it on my channel. I mean, if this channel gets struck down, it gets struck down. Either way, I've taken a lot of money out of YouTube's pocket. You know, with just for StreamYard alone. But for the most part, we have a lot of people with some psychological issues on the left.
We definitely do.
And it's being capitalized on it by somebody else. Everybody wants to talk about the blue pill simps. It's not just the blue pill simps. It's everything else around it. You know?
Yeah.
It's everyone else around it, surrounding it. Yes, you do have simps in the mix of Antifa and BLM. Yes. You know why you have them? Because they're capitalizing it. They're either trying to capitalize on the people with the mental illness or capitalizing. You know, back in the day, people messing around with people with mental illness was a crime. It was an actual punishable offense.
Yeah, it was, actually. Believe it or not, it was.
It was an actual punishable offense. Now, people are looking for that. You know? People are looking for it to capitalize because if you've got an autistic woman, an autistic female, who was raised with traditional values. One thing about autism, one thing about people with mental illness is that if you make a good rapport with them and they have skills, you have somebody who's loyal for life, unless you manage to piss them off. You know? You have somebody that will literally go down who's loyal for life, who's loyal to their friends, loyal to the significant others, as long as you don't piss them off.
True story.
Here's the question: who got them? Who got them? Somebody knew this. Somebody knew this.
No, you don't necessarily have to know. It's people are pretty easily impressionable. Like if you get a group of people together, you can pretty much get everybody to do one thing if you get a nice group of people together. Because like they say, a person is smart, but people are dumb, and that's typically how that works. You just get a group of people together. They all start believing a certain thing. They all start talking to each other. Now they all start really believing in this shit, and all of a sudden you got this.
Right.
So it's not one of those things where it's like they took advantage of anything. They took advantage of the group think, because group think would get a lot of people to do a lot of stupid shit. This is typically why you avoid group think and you do your own thing, so you won't get caught up in the BS, basically.
Now we're gonna get into the time where Tico evaluates my performance.
Wait, what? I was not aware of this.
Hey,
I was not told I was going to be doing this.
I thought about this on the spot. Hey, this is on the spot.
Yeah, I noticed.
I'm looking for self-improvement. You know.
Okay.
Things that I can improve on. So, from your own experience, how do you think I did?
You did pretty good. I wouldn't rush a live stream. I would just take time to actually prepare properly for it. Other than that, you did pretty good for somebody that just literally did a live stream on the fly.
I mean, let's say I'm not the type of person that's gonna hide. That's basically gonna hide. Like I said, this is pretty much what needs to happen in the fucking manosphere. You
Mm,
know, like I said, I'm not gonna hide something that because it's something that needs to be said. And it's like the thing is like if I need improvement, I'm gonna let I'm gonna let pretty much it's gonna be YouTube. It's basically I'm not gonna hide the fact that I need self improvement. It basically shows that I'm human. I'm a human freaking being. You know,
mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of these people try to hide. Oh, I'm try to play the persona of. Oh, I know what I'm talking about. Do you? The question is, do you? Do you truly know what you're talking about, or just talking out your ass? That's the
Mm-hmm.
way I see it. And I don't like talking about out of my ass because shit, when your asshole grows teeth, that's a problem. Am I wrong?
Mm, yeah, it is definitely.
That's a problem because you shit is your mouth was designed for teeth. Your asshole wasn't. Well, I guess we can get on our outros and stuff
Okay.
because like this is pretty much on the fly.
Well, this is Tico Trent. It was a blast being in the last stream with Win, and y'all listen. Whoever's listening, thank y'all for listening. Steph, y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one and be blessed.
All right, this is McTow on the win. Thank you, Meatbags, Tico Trend, Red Pill, even though you're in the stream. Jay McTow, Armor Revolutionary, and Grandpa Seafood Black Irish. This is McTow on the win. Don't do anything that I do, and if you find yourself in a situation, just ask for the keys to a backhoe or an excavator. So, until it gets to the point where you're gonna have to relent. Know when to stop digging, because there's only so much digging you can do before it becomes excessive.
Yeah.
And remember about the subdued flags. It's McTown to win, signing off.